We are here.
Oh my gosh, that was so bizarre. That
Oh
was so
my
bizarre.
gosh.
So I'm going to let you tell your part, but I'm not going to do it until after I kind of introduce, like, do some introductory stuff.
Yeah, sure. No, that's fine. I'll go
Okay.
last.
So, uh, I'm sorry if you guys were on the other link. We had this really weird thing happen where we hit go live, and then all of a sudden I got an error message that popped up and said, your content goes against community standards, and we were both kicked off, and the first attempt was gone, and it was just kind of, I don't know, do 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 do. Um, Either way, we're back, and we were unable to stream this to Facebook like we do all the other ones because of that weird message that Facebook gave me saying it was against these standards. So anyway, here we are. And most of you know me. I'm Mozelle Martin, 35-year international forensic handwriting expert, as seen on TV and right here on YouTube. And my guest is Dawn McCarty, a seasoned question document examiner and cybersecurity professional. Of course, we'd love to connect with you. And down below, I put our links so that you could do that. So today's show is about answering the conspiracy theory of, did Elvis write his own autopsy report, or what I call the death documents? By answering that, we will automatically be able to somewhat answer, at least, could Elvis still be alive? Um, First, I want to let you know that this might be a little bit of a different type of segment, because usually I do a handwriting personality portion to it and then we turn it over to Dawn. But I'm actually getting ready to leave state for a week for some federal forensic work. And so I didn't really have a chance to do that. But I'm still going to give this over to Dawn in a few moments. I have a question that I have to ask Dawn because it was from last week's live regarding John Bonet. And John Bonet's father, John Ramsey, is asking for DNA testing. And so somebody emailed me to ask Dawn this question. And I thought we covered it last week, but maybe we missed it somewhere. I'm not sure. But the question is, Dawn, do you know why the police are unwilling to do the DNA testing?
I think I just barely touched on it because I don't want to, put my, that's kind of like putting my mouth, my neck out there on the line a little bit because I'm speculating. And my speculation is that if this case is reopened, then a lot of things are going to be discovered, right, wrong, or indifferent. And it may be self-preservation, or they may think it's a dead case. We don't want to throw any more money at it. So it could be either or, but I can imagine if it were me, I wouldn't want anybody reopening my case because we already know there's a lot of things that weren't necessarily done by the book. Not that they were done in any kind of malice intention, but it wasn't really fully conducted as a full-fledged crime scene. And like I did specify, remember, I did say that they entered the home and the dwelling thinking that a child was kidnapped, not murdered. So the crime scene changed in the middle of it. And now all of a sudden you're dealing with contamination. So before they knew it, it was already contaminated. So again, it's speculation. It could just be that they don't want to throw any more money at it, reopening a cold case, but it does need to be reopened. So the family does deserve to test that DNA ethically. Of course, I don't want any unethical type of DNA testing being done and things like that. But it's really hard to say. It's just a matter of opinion at this point.
Okay, that's good. Yeah, thank you very much for that. The next question was for me, and it was if I have any thoughts about Summer Wells and Dylan Rounds. And I'm actually slowly working on the Summer Wells handwriting samples, but I really would like to have more handwriting samples from the mom. I only have one that was like this really weird screenshot from Facebook, and it was at this really strange angle. The other thing is I would love to have a handwriting sample from the grandma as well. And, if the police department would agree to hire me, I have some specifics that I would ask for with regard to handwriting, to give them specific areas of like deception or maybe guilty knowledge and things like that. But as for Dylan, I don't have any handwriting samples, and I've actually looked. So unless I receive some, I really can't help with that.
This would be a case that I think would be fun for us to do, because I was following that case early on with one of someone we both know, just kind of trying to figure out what happened because of my work in trying to help prevent predators and children being abducted and trafficked. So I was following that case, and that would be an interesting one, I think, for us to dive into a little bit, maybe someday.
That would be one. And before I forget, there's been a lot of great comments on last week's live about the John Binney case, like a really lot of good insight that was new to me. So I'm urging everybody to go back and look at that live and read some of those comments, because I mean, it may be helpful to somebody who may be looking into solve this as well.
Yeah, investigations, even Mr. Ramsey himself, anybody that's on his team, his attorneys, his legal team. There's a lot of information that might be, maybe something wasn't thought of. Maybe someone mentioned something that kind of leads them to a clue.
Well, and another question I had was about serial killers, and I was going to answer that really quick here, but there really isn't a quick answer. So what I did was I recorded a separate little video that I will upload later today to answer the serial killer question that I had. Now, for today's show, I admittedly have never been a fan of Elvis, but I think it's because he was popular way before I was born, and my parents weren't fans either. But this episode is from my longtime friend and recently discovered cousin, Jody, who is by far the biggest Elvis fan I know. One's for her. For those of you who may be even younger than me, Elvis Presley died almost exactly to this date 45 years ago, which was August 16th, 1977 in Memphis, Tennessee. He had poor health and was addicted to prescription drugs. And so he died of a heart attack in his bathroom. There has been some theories saying that he died on the toilet, but the medical examiner said that that's not true. He was found on the floor of his bathroom. So there's that part. There have been so many conspiracies around Elvis's death, including UFO abductions, mafia connections, fake funerals, metaphysics, numerology, occult, even some weird, strange connection with Michael Jackson. I mean, there's just been so much. There was a guy named I think I'm going to say his name right or wrong, I don't know, Xavier Hayes, who wrote a book called Elvis is Alive. And I put the link below in the description. And basically, he's trying to blow off the lid off of all the decades of Elvis's conspiracy theories about, hey, I saw him at the pool. Hey, I saw him over here and over there. And I saw him on the Home Alone movie that they think he was in. Okay, so Dawn, I want to know what you found. I want to know, did he write his own death documents? And could he potentially still be alive?
Ooh.
So now.
It's funny that I have to say first, same with me. I have not listened to Elvis. I'm not a fan or a foe. I have no stake in this either way. The information that I found is quite interesting. And so I'm just going to dig into it, because otherwise I'm going to give a spoiler and I don't have any decent spoiler alerts. So
yes.
Let me share my screen. I'm going to start with what we know has been in, hold on. It's not letting me share here. Hold on.
So I'm going to go off my part of the screen so you can have more on yours. Okay.
Okay. So I do know that there was one handwriting analyst that I've been able to find, and I've been searching. Now, remember, I only had a week to do this. So, and that's after my job and, working and stuff like that. So I have been scouring, trying to see how many other analysts had looked at this, because I was kind of curious to compare it to what I came up with. And I so far have only found one, and that one has been shared among all of the media that shared the story. So it's the same analyst throughout all those different medias. So basically, we have this question document here, and this is the supposed death certificate that they're claiming that Elvis filled out himself. And then, where's my, I got to get to my, here we go. Had to get to my PowerPoint so I could click to the next button. So then we have the known documents. Now, these are actual letters that he wrote to President Nixon back in, I think these were dated, and I forget the year. I think it was, anyway, I forget the year. But these are the known samples. So I was looking for other known samples, but there's 5 pages of this. So this is a pretty decent amount of writing, because someone could disguise their writing in a document. Now, it's not necessarily this one. This one we know is actually a known document, but people can disguise their writing usually for the front page. But then when you start adding additional pages after that, that disguise kind of filters away. And then they no longer have that kind of control, or they're not keeping that top of mind. So they might end up automatically just going back into their own handwriting. So these are the documents that we're looking at. That first one I showed you, the death certificate, and then these. So what's in, I just wanted to show you that the examiner, and his name was Paul, I think it's Weirst. I'm not exactly sure how to say his name. It's W-E-A-R-T, I think, something like that. And he was the only one that I know of to date that has actually gone public with his opinion on the handwriting. So he specified in the interview that he was handed this death certificate and this letter to the president. So I'm looking at the exact same information that he had at the time. So I just wanted to clarify that on why I chose these 2 items to look at as we're doing our analysis. So this is the full 2-page question document. So you've got the front part. This top part here was filled out by someone other than the person down here on the second page at the bottom. So what I'm assuming, as this was probably the doctor himself, maybe the person that conducted the autopsy, and we don't know who filled out this top portion, but they were not the same people, correct? So going on to what I want to pull out of this document. So there's so many different characteristics and stuff that I could pull out of here, but for the sake of this particular presentation here, I'm just going to look at some of these H's. So if you look at these documents, I have 6 H's on this page that I'm going to compare to some H's out of that known document that he wrote to the president. So from that document, this is the note that he sent to the president. And these are the 2 H's down here on page 1 that I'm going to show you what I discovered. So what's going to happen now is I'm going to show you a couple of overlays. And one is for the possibility that, yes, he might have. And one is probably saying, yeah, maybe not. So don't set your opinions up based off of what you see on the first video. So hold on just a second. Hold on to that thought. So here's the examples that I pulled. I kind of put them onto this one page. And on this right side is the question H's that I want to compare. And on the left was one of the ones out of the note to the president. And let me put here, it's going to play here. So I'm pulling out the H that I think, so this down here, this H to me looks like it is the closest to this H up here in the known. And I'm going to overlay it. I'm going to just drag that over to the other side, and I'm going to put it right over the top of the known sample. So I'm dragging the questioned H, and I'm going to lay it over the top of this known sample. And you can see that there's nearly a perfect alignment from the strokes. Now, if you notice the strokes, we have the left stem, we have the right stem, but we also have that one from the bottom left up to the top right. So now I'm going to go the opposite way. And I want you to see that it doesn't matter which item I lay over the other, you can still see pretty well the alignment here. So it's pretty this is pretty significant. However, please note that just because we have one almost identical match does not mean that we actually have the same person. It's definitely something that's leaning towards that. So I'm going to move on to the next one here. And this is where I pulled out that second H. So let's go ahead and play this. So again, I'm just going to drag the known one over the top of the question one because we already saw it go the other way. And what I want to point out with this particular one, this one is what really got me going, wow, whoa, because we had some significant characteristics in that first one, but we're going to add another one to this one. And this is where it really got me, is that little hook down there in the bottom where it goes up and over to cross the H. And even though in the known sample, it doesn't go up and over, it starts to. And it's aligned exactly right with the same style in this question H. So this is where I'm going, I'm pausing, I'm going, wow, wait a minute. This is pretty significant here. But I also want to point out that there are plenty of similarities, but there are even more dissimilar items in this handwriting. So I'm gonna show you the T's. So the T's I think are significant, and this is where I'm leaning away from him being the same author. Because if you look at this question document side, these T's have long strokes going across and angled up to the high to the right. And they're very long. Some of them are even tapered, but you can see how a lot of them are longer on the right side than they are on the left. Some of them don't even go into the left, you know, very high up on the T-bar. So these are significant traits. Some of them are even, one is pointed down, but it's a tapered. And then this one is absolutely, I hope you can see my mouse over this. I'm down here at the third one from the bottom. It looks like attempted. I'm not sure what the word is, but it does look like attempted. But see how long these T-bars are? He's actually crossing all three T's with one stroke. So this is a significant characteristic in here, right? Okay, so, and then if you keep going down, you have another one that goes more to the right than it is on the left with that tapered look. And then I keep saying tapered, so I'll explain a little bit, and then maybe Mozelle can jump in later after the presentation. When you have that tapered look like that, it almost looks like a sharp object or a knife. So this person could be caustic or, you know, stacked with different types of characteristics. This could lead to us believing that this person may have some nefarious type characteristics in their personality, again, combined with other characteristics. So you can see these T's are pretty significant. Now, if you look at the known sample on the left, these are the strokes are going sometimes from the right side to the left. So it's coming down here. I think this word was out, O-U-T. And you can see how he brought his stroke down and then he curved up and then crossed his T from right to left. Some of these are the exact same way, even up here in great. He came down, went up and over, and then came across. Same here with establishment, I think is this word. He came down, up and over, and then crossed his T. Whoops, I didn't want to do that. Let me go back. Not done with that yet. The word not, down, up and over, crossed his T. Look at but, just, to, down, up and over, crossed his T. Very significantly. And these are out of different documents. These aren't all out of the letter to the president. I think I used two different samples just to show you how prominent this type of stroke is for Elvis. This is Elvis's probably very common way of writing and crossing T's, because he does it very, very frequently in letters that are connected in the same sentence. So this is a very common trait of his. You do not see that on the question document side whatsoever. And then when I did pull out some of the ones that did not have that up and over crossing, like here in country, it starts clear over to the left and barely crosses the line over to the right. And it's not tapered, it's clubbed. So we have a little extra emphasis here on the end of this particular stroke. So that's a little different. Now here we have a T that goes from the left to the right in a downward slant with a little taper look on it. You can see how that's tapered a little bit. My mouse keeps disappearing. It's tapered a little bit, but it's also angled down, not straight across, not up. So that's different, still yet to the question side. And here you can barely see that he crossed his T at all. So because of this, I do not think that he wrote these items with concerning the T's on the question document stuff. So what's my analysis on this? I think it's about maybe a 50-50. I mean, I could really go say, wow, there's some really significant keystrokes in here, or not keystrokes, handwriting strokes. There's the size, the slant, the spacing, the striations. All those things are very similar in some of these letters. But then there's so many of these other ones that are very significant and very prominent in his handwriting that you're just not seeing. Now, one thing I want to mention, the death certificate was written when he was at his poorest health, right? So would he have that ambitious T-stroke going up and to the right? Would he have those really long ones going across all three T's? Not someone that was in poor health like he was. So there again, I'm pulling, and that's one thing I want to remind everybody, that when you're doing the document examination piece, that authentication piece, we try to not bring in personality, but I think it is an example that we can bring in that particular piece here. So Mozelle, do you want to talk about the that stroke in that positive part of how it's being crossed, and the difference between, like, sometimes when you shield yourself, you know, like you're protecting yourself, so you throw your hand up over your head. That's what those T's are doing too. It's kind of like a defense mechanism. So I kind of want to let you talk about that a little bit.
So I have to tell you what I had, because I've never seen these samples, right? So when you pulled up your presentation, like I didn't see that before. So when you had one on there, and I think it was the second one from the bottom on the known side, and I was like, oh my God, there's a gun. It's like that old pistolier from history. Did Elvis like guns?
Which one was that?
Usually that only show weapons, like that stroke only shows up in people who collect guns. So let me see. But that second one right there on the left, on the known, I think you said it says out or something like that.
This one?
Yeah.
Okay, I see what you're saying. Yep.
Just the bar itself looks like an old pistolier.
Yeah, with the strap on it.
Just like, yeah, I'm like, it's just that barrel right there, the handle and the barrel right there. And I'm like, I don't know anything about Elvis. Did he like guns? Because usually that stroke only shows up when somebody who collects guns. Oh,
that's
Matt,
a good question. I don't know him well enough to know.
Well, Matt
just said someone else out there does.
Yeah, because Matt just said he was obsessed with guns. I'm like, I didn't know
Was
that.
he?
But yeah, there's a perfect gun right there. And that's the first. So that's what I was focused on. So I kind of lost all interest once I saw that. And he shot TVs, like real TVs, Matt. He shot TVs
on purpose.
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering. I guess Matt knows them or knows of them or something, but I gotta shut my thing off because I got my business phone ringing and I forgot to silence it. I'll be back.
Okay. Yeah, so I think this is pretty interesting to see some of this stuff in here. And like we were talking about, when she comes back, I'll have her talk a little bit more about these T-bar crossings on the question side, and what does that really mean when we're talking about maybe their health or mental state. That I didn't catch the gun, but now that she says that, I can see it there. And I can also see that there's some difference in the style of writing. So this item over here, these last four on the left, this was written a lot earlier. So there's years in between these handwriting samples. And I just wanted to point that out because your handwriting does change. So I think it's significant to see that those T's had not changed over time.
And one of the things that I'm looking at is that big loop, his big T crossing with that big loop. I mean, he's just got tons of perseverance, and and even on the bottom, like the third one down, he has a huge loop. So I mean, you have that self-protection, but you also have that whole perseverance and willpower thing going on. And it really speaks a lot to his mind, his imagination. I mean, he's a singer-songwriter guy, so you know, it speaks a lot to the involvement of his mind in, you know,
Yeah.
it's all encompassing. He lived in his head a lot, I guess I could
Yeah.
say.
I should have got a couple of different samples of his signature and shared what he wants you to believe about him. Because your signature, like I tell everybody, your signature really is your badge to the world.
Right.
It's what you want people to believe about you. So we stylize our signature. It's not exactly the same as our handwriting. So our handwriting, we don't think about it much. But when we write that signature, we want it to look a certain way. And especially, I would say women, girls, especially when they're young, because they're trying to, they're in that creative mode, creating that style and getting into how they're going to sign their name. And celebrity.
Yeah.
Celebrities are huge when we're analyzing their signatures, because you'll often see how exaggerated those first initial letters are compared to the rest of the letters in the same word. So Elvis, the E is huge, but the other letters are smaller. P is huge, and then the other letters are smaller. So maybe down the road, I'll grab a couple of those and throw up a little video on what I think he wants you to believe about himself when it comes to his own signature.
Well, one thing that I'm noticing is his lower loop, and you know how it says right there country, and he's got that triangle and that really low crossing. So it shows that he can be clannish, and then he really likes to control his environment. So he I don't know that you see, I don't know, because like I said, I'm shooting blind here as far as like I've never seen him in anything. I've never watched videos of him, but does he come across in the public eye as being such a control freak? I don't know. But personally, he is much more of a control freak. Like he wants to definitely be in control of his environment and his settings, the relationships, situations. I don't know if he's like that on the public side, because I know nothing about him.
Yeah. Yeah, now all I know about him is what I can see in his handwriting. So yeah, it's hard when you don't know. Well, it's easier for us when we don't know, because then we're not pulling any biases in or anything like that. So me coming from a blank slate of not knowing, other than I know a few songs that he wrote, and I know what he looks like, and I know that he died. That's pretty much all I knew about him. So
the only song I know about him is because my mom and dad were not fans, but my mom loved that song In the Ghetto. So I remember that one. I don't know any other ones.
I remember Hound Dog and Forrest Gump.
Forrest Gump?
Yeah. You remember Forrest taught him how to do the dance?
Yeah. Oh, really? That was in there?
It was in the Forrest Gump movie.
Yeah, but I apparently didn't even recognize that. So
yeah.
I'm giving away my complete ignorance here. So, but I think I don't I don't know, like with the whole, I mean, those H's were a little, yeah. I mean,
that's hard.
Yeah.
It's not even like it's the same slant, same spacing.
Right.
It's the same slant, down, up, down, and then almost up again in the middle. So we're talking about 4 characteristics in one letter, which is really hard to copy that or to avoid that. So that one kind of got me, that one H.
So we already know about the weird mystery stuff around, like trying to get this live going today, but tell us about the mystery.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I was getting there. So I don't know how many of you have heard of or have seen Skinwalker Ranch. So if you've watched the series or if you've known anything about it, it's been a phenomenon that's been going on for decades, centuries, whatever. And they've been doing a lot of research in the last, probably 50 years on and off. So I've been watching this series, and while I'm watching it and they're their rockets are failing, their devices are shutting off, they're not getting data, the data's coming back zero. I render the video that I showed you earlier on how the H's overlay on top, and I had the black title screen in the middle. And when I rendered it, the only thing that came through on the rendered video was the black title screen. None of the other video. I had to shut down everything Skinwalker. Couldn't have it on at all. And then had to reboot. And then I was able to get it to finally render the whole thing. It was insane. And then just talking about the Skinwalker part of it, you weren't able to go live. And it was just
it was weird. It was
total
weird.
coincidence, I'm sure. But
well, so tell them real quick about what you think as far as how would somebody really concretely say if he's dead or alive, for those who are still conspiracy theorists.
Okay,
so I upload another sample real quick.
I do have, well, I did have one theory about, and this is tied to the Skinwalker, and I'm just being facetious and sarcastic because that's me. It makes me wonder if Elvis is really kind of in control over what the phenomenon is over the Skinwalker Ranch, you know, because of all these weird things going on with the video. But no, as far as being able to tell 100% for sure, it's really hard if he has, where he's gone in hiding, how has he disguised himself, because he doesn't blend in well with other people unless he's in Vegas. But if you're around the world anywhere, people around the world remember what he looks like. So it'd be really hard, I think, for me to seclude himself. And then some of the rumors are saying that he wanted out of the spotlight. But, we're talking about how many years later, 40 some odd years later, 46 years, I think. That's a long time to be secluded from the world when you're so much in that limelight. When does that urge to be back there come back, call, or, urge you to come back into the spotlight somehow? And then how would his family be part of that? Would they know? And if they did, how long could that be kept a secret? So I would think that by this time, somebody somewhere would have figured something out. So I don't know. If you look at his tombstone, I mean, I just caught a glimpse of his tombstone images, and they spelled his name wrong. So there's a conspiracy about that and why that was spelled wrong. Yeah, his middle name is Aaron, A-R-O-N, not A-A-R-O-N. The tombstone has A-A-R-O-N. So wow. There's all kinds of things that people are like, see, it's not him. And to me, it's really too hard to say how we would be able to prove it. Because if somebody, back then they didn't have the internet. And today we have the internet, but there's more people in the world today who have no idea who he is. So
that's true.
I mean, yeah, I don't know.
So I just, I mentioned Jody that this is for her. So she sent me a couple other documents that I'm going to show right now. Maybe we can talk about those.
Okay.
So here we go. Okay. So it looks like there are some checks. Looks like it's.
First thing I'm going to say is that E and the A does not look like the E's and the A's I've seen him sign with. That and that P and that Y, no, does look forged to me. And that's just based off of the first time seeing this and not really being able to do an analysis with the slant slopes and spacing. Just by looking at it with my raw, with no tools in front of me, I say those are forgeries.
But they look like canceled checks from 1975 and 1970. And, he could be writing differently, his business side.
True.
Could be writing differently.
And he could have had an assistant maybe that signed them.
Yeah. Yeah, I just thought that was kind of interesting to see it from this perspective because canceled checks, you don't get to see those often.
Yeah. No, you don't. And these are before he passed on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, Matt said his dad wrote the checks. Okay, so you'd be right that it's
So maybe he signed them.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you
'Cause
know,
they're very
people. I know that there's instances where they have their accountant or whoever signed the checks for them, and it's not forgery unless you didn't give them permission to.
right, right,
So
right.
if they had permission, then it's not a forgery.
Yeah, so that would make sense then if it was, you know, his dad. So
Yeah, yeah,
that's interesting to look at.
because that's a pretty fluid signature as far as the Presley part goes. So
Yeah.
I would compare these signatures with Vernon's. That's his dad's name.
Oh, it is. Yeah. Well, his P, I tried to pull up an Elvis signature, and the P, at least I really can't see the bottom because of how the layout is, but let me move myself.
Yeah, that Presley actually looks similar to the Presley in the death certificate.
So the P on his signature, when I pull it up on Google Images, the P on the top one looks really similar. The bottom one looks different though. So
yeah, there's something in one of the examples. I don't have it on the screen over here. Because I did do one on the P's, but they were so different. But there's a couple of them in there that look similar to that bottom one. So I'd have to look at that closer.
well, that's interesting to look at. Jody says that Matt, that sample's for you, for your collection. So I guess they have two of the biggest Elvis fans on the world in our chat.
Cool.
That's awesome.
Well, we're glad you're here.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. So, I mean, in all seriousness, yeah, I mean, the analysis that I did, it was quick. It had to be quick. Most of the time we like to take our time and build onto and do more than I've been able to do here. But for what we did in the time that we have here, I mean, I think it's significant to say at least a 50-50 as far as the handwriting goes of did he or didn't he write it. I can't rule it out 100% because that H is still there.
So there are going to be, here's the conclusion, y'all, that there are going to be people who are going to be diehard believers and that he is alive. And there are going to be people who are diehard believers that he is not alive.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and I'm not saying either.
Right. And the only one who really knows the truth is Elvis, I guess. But I would like to know from anybody who watches it now or in the future, if you feel that this video provides proof one way or another. I mean, what do you think? Do you think he's alive? Do you think he passed? I definitely want to know what, I know Matt already said he's definitely passed. I'd like to know what Jody believes. And yes, you're right, Cher. God knows. I should have specified the only human that knows, but I guess if Elvis is dead, he's not really human anymore. So, but we really want to know what you think. And so we really want to, again, I had to cut this one short because of the trip, but I appreciate y'all being here. Any final words, Dawn?
Well, I just want to say with respect to the family that, for them, this is serious. And, I truly wanted to see if I could come up with a definitive yes or no. And I'm not able to at this particular point. Now, if I was going into it deeper, I might have a different opinion. But based off of what I've already done today, I've got one letter that is, a pretty significant match. And then I have a lot of other letters that aren't. So it's not 100% either way. It doesn't matter which way I go. So if it's not 100%, then I can't go there. But I do think that conspiracy theories are always hard. You always have those for and against. But I can't say one way or the other for sure. Unfortunately, I thought I was going to come in here and say, "Oh no."
I thought that's what you're going to say too. I thought that's what you were going to say too, because I'm like, no way, there's no way. And then,
yeah, if it wasn't for that H, I probably would have.
Yeah.
But that H that's the one that's making me say I cannot say 100% that he did not because of that H.
Well, I think that Jody and Matt need to connect with each other offline so that they are like on a different platform so that they can share their Elvis stories and their love. And hopefully, you know, maybe we'll be able to bring this back around when we have more time to really look deeply into it.
Yeah.
I'd like to look at his
Get some more
personality
questions.
a little bit more.
Yeah, and I could do his signature.
I'd like to look like that. As far as what's coming next, we're taking a little bit of a break, but I'm going to be having my really good friend who's the founder of a really cool science come on soon after I get back from this trip. So stay tuned for some more. But in the meantime, have a good couple weeks till I see you next time. And as always, if you guys have any ideas for Dawn and I to come back together and look at a case that's out there, let us know because we would love to. And even if it's not a case, if it's just a person of interest, like, you know, Amber Heard, I mean, that was kind of a case and a person of interest, but it doesn't have to be a criminal case for us to take a look at something.
Yeah, and
so,
it doesn't have to be all handwriting either.
Right. So let us know what you want, and, you know, we will do our best to accommodate. So thank you all for joining us today, and have a great rest of your weekend.